Okay guys, I think we'll make a start. Good afternoon everyone, thank you all for coming to the new employee drop-in session. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom and I'll be your presenter for today. And I normally start these sessions, before we go into the content of the session, by talking about its purpose. We've only got an hour today, so it is designed to give you an overview of the functionality that is available to you as part of your employee role. However, more in-depth information is available on online training platform. I'm sure you're all familiar with Canvas. We have our open course which you can access. So it's the Canvas link /courses/30112. This is your starting point for other in-depth information, and that is related to the employee role, other functionality that I will not be able to show you today, but also other roles like line manager, budget manager, principal investigator, and so on. This is a really good resource. We've really had good feedback on using it, so it is there for you to use. It is there for you to refresh your memory on everything that you will see today. Is just under 5 weeks until go live, so maybe until then you will have forgotten something, so Canvas is your place to go for a refresher, but also for other in-depth content. Now focusing on the content of the session, like I said, we'll be looking at the employee role. So everything that is available to you on the system as part of that role, which is kind of think of it as the most basic level access. But basic does not mean that there's little, there's actually quite a lot that you will be able to do. Starting with updating personal details. So I will use an example of updating the address, and this is something that we've never really had access to before. Strangely enough, our current systems don't facilitate an option to owning your own personal data. So beforehand you had to email HR, let them know of your address or any other change to your personal details. Then they did it somewhere, you had to trust them that they've done it. But going forward, you'll be accessing that yourselves. You'll be able to update those details, and they will almost instantaneously be updated. So I'll show you how to do that. As part of the same personal details screen, I'll also show you where you will be viewing your payslips and also amending your bank details. It's part of the same tab. What that means is that we will stop paper circulation of payslips. So the end of May payslip will be the last payslip we'll receive a paper copy of. Going forward, end of June, you will be accessing payslips online. So I'll show you how and where you do that. So the caveat for today for that point is I will be using the training environment with a dummy account. What that means is I'll show you where the payslips would be stored, but there won't be any payslips actually accessible that I'll be able to click on. So you'll just have to use your imagination that that's where they are, but you'll be able to access them from that particular screen when we get to it. Then we're going to move on to requesting absences, and I will use an example of annual leave, and this is already kind of giving you a hint that maybe there are more different absences that you will be able to select as an employee. Obviously the annual leave is the one that everybody is most interested in, but there are others. So we're going to have a look at what's available, what's on the list. And then we're going to move away from what is considered the kind of the HR part of the system, HR module, into finance. I will submit a simple expense claim and raise a purchase requisition. I'll probably use the non-catalog example because it's slightly more complicated, and it introduces the most changes, which I'm quite excited about. So I'm keen to show it to you. So this is quite a lot for 1 hour, but I'm confident that we can do it. So throughout the session, please ask questions as you think them. I'm here to answer that, so do not wait until the end. Ask as we go. So what I'll do is I'll come out of my presentation and go into New Core. So this is the blue screen of New Core. And I always ask, show of hands, who is seeing this screen for the first time. Okay, quite a few of you. Which is good that you're here, so you can see. And I ask not because I expected you to have seen it, but maybe you attended other presentations. It's always useful to see. So it's sort of half and half. So just to explain, you have this greeting, good afternoon, Ernie employee. So I'm logged in as Ernie. This is my dummy account that I'm using for today's session. And you can see good afternoon. So the system is recognizing the time of day. If it's morning, it will be morning. If you are working late into the evening, it will also say good evening, if you're so desperate. Underneath the greeting, you have these headings: me, my team, procurement tools, and others. So for Ernie, this is the most basic account. It just has an employee role. If you had more roles, you would see more headings, and these headings would have more functionality available, represented by these tiles here, these squares. If I start clicking through those different tiles, you can see how that middle part of the screen changes. You get access to those different tiles we call apps here. If I scroll down, focus on them, you can see underneath the me heading, we have stuff like personal information, time, expenses, and some others, maybe benefits. So on some of them, I'll be clicking on today, just to show you what's behind them, what kind of functionality you can access. And then on the left-hand side, you have some quick actions, which are effectively your shortcuts to a different part of the system. So let's say you want to update your personal details, and you know you want to update the details. You can go into personal information, click on edit, which is what I will do later, but you can also use the first quick action, edit my details, and it will take you to that edit page. It saves you a click. It's still not too far away, but it is there for you to take advantage of. In the top left corner, we have these three horizontal bars. This is our navigator. If I click on that, we get the same headings: me, my team, procurement tools, and others. And if I click on me and expand on it, you can see access to the same, what are tiles at the front. This time it's effectively a drop-down menu. The nice thing about the navigator is no matter where you are within the system, it's always visible. So you can always just jump around. You do not have to come back to this landing page. However, if you wanted to, in the top right corner, you have a home icon, which if you click on, it will take you back to the home screen. You can always start again, start from scratch. Next to it is second icon. It's our notifications area. Ernie has 49 notifications, so quite a lot, because I'm delivering a lot of presentations and submitting a lot of things as Ernie. So this is effectively, think of notifications as internal communication system that is built in within Nucore that facilitates flow of information. So what Ernie will do later, or I will do after Ernie, is submit an annual leave request, which upon submission triggers a notification to Ernie's line manager. He will receive a notification in his bell icon to approve, reject, do something to that notification. And then when Ernie's line manager, who's Larry by the way, approves, then that triggers a notification back to Ernie and to you as an employee, letting you know exactly what happened with your request. Let's say your annual leave request was approved. So you'll be able to access those notifications in your bell icon, but also all those notifications will have an email coming through to your inbox, which means you do not have to stay logged in all day, every day, keep looking at the bell icon. Do I have a notification? Has it come through or not? You'll always get an email as well. So this is kind of basic navigation. As you may know, hopefully we are going live week commencing 3rd of June. So what we will do is we will issue you with an information, almost like a list of day one activities. Please make sure you do this. And the top thing that's going to be on the list is please check your personal information. What we are doing is we are migrating all of that data from existing systems, but these systems have been around for 20, 30 years, and that is not a joke, it's true. They're really, really old, and what that means is we did our best to cleanse the data, but because of how long the systems were in use for, errors, mistakes may have crept in, so we did our best, but something might still not be quite right. So we'll be asking you to check your personal information. So what I'm going to do is click on exactly that, which takes me to my details page. And you can see I have contact information. There will be work email, which happens to be my work email, home address, personal contacts if I have any next of kin. I don't at the moment. Then we have some biographical information: name, title, first name, date of birth, and so on. On the left-hand side, you have more tabs, more options. Employment details, my documents, benefits, payroll and compensation. I will not click on all of them today, but we will be asking you to do that when we go live. Just make sure that you're put on the right salary, that your job title is okay, you know, all these minor details. It's actually quite important for you to do that. Having said that, I will click on payroll later because that's where payslips will be stored. But for now, I'm reviewing this and well, I'm looking at my home address and checking, oh, something isn't quite right. Not 10 Holly Lane, it's maybe 11. There's a mistake. In the top right corner, I have an option to edit these details. So if I click on that, this will take me to edit my details page. And on the left-hand side, I have an option to keep clicking through those different tabs and update all of the information in one go. So we will be asking you to put some contact information, so next of kin, emergency contact, these sort of things. So this is where you do it. But for today, I'm just going to focus on address. So I'm looking at my address. There's a pencil icon for edit, and if I click on it, this will make all of my fields for the address editable. So like I said, I'm just updating one number, one digit, but obviously more likely scenario would be you would be changing the whole address. And it is as simple as just erasing this and putting your new address. The system has an effective start date field. So this will default into today's date, but you can update it and change it to whatever it needs to be. So you can make your changes in advance. Let's say you know you're going to move in 3 weeks' time, you can future date it. The system will remember it, and then it will update the address at that time when you tell it to. So for today, I'm just going to leave it as today's date. Once I'm done, in the top right corner, I can click Save and Close. And now I know that this has been updated, but you can still see home address is 10 Holly Lane, and that is because all changes that you make here enter a process that just needs to run, and it will take a few minutes, a couple of minutes, to refresh, and then once it's run its course, you will see 11 in here. So like I said, it's less than 2 minutes. What that means is none of the changes, because it is your personal information, will require approvals, but there is one exception, and that is in your biographical information. If you update your name or title, then that will trigger a notification to HR, who will receive it, and then they will wait for you to provide a document confirming your name or title change before they click approve. Once they receive that, they'll click approve. That change will appear here, and you will also get a notification back letting you know that they've done it. So that is the only exception.
Can you submit documents through that then if you say change your name or your title?
Not for this type. There are other documents that we are asking you to submit through this screen, but I will be honest, I haven't seen that particular one. I think you still have to deliver it to HR. Because that is not something that they will be putting on the system. They will just use it, have a look, oh yeah, name change, click approve. Let's see, once we've made our updates, if we got paid. And like I said, in this particular environment, we haven't. So I clicked on the payroll tab, and you can see just about the word payslips underneath the initials for earning employee EE. So you know you are looking at what would be a table of payslips, period start date, period end date, amount, and payment date, and end of June, end of July, and so on. New entries, new payslips will start appearing, which are just a PDF document. They have the employer information, all the payments, all the national insurance, and so on. It's a very standard document. You can print it off, you can send it to yourselves electronically. You can also keep them on your account and not do anything with them. As long as you have access to the account, you'll be always able to access your very, very first payslip, which will be the June payslip. And on the right-hand side, if you ever wanted to or needed to update your bank details, your bank account, then you do it here by clicking on Manage and then selecting New Account option and filling in your new account details. Save and close, job done. It will enter the next payroll run. This is where you will be paid. So we are migrating all of that data. You do not have to worry about it. It's all going to be there because we are all getting paid. We all have a bank account that our salary is coming into. But just so you know, in case you need to ever change it, it is there on this screen. Any questions? Yes.
If you were to change your home address details, does that trigger something to payroll that triggers to pensions, to your pension provider with similar to supplements?
I will say no.
Okay.
You'll probably have to contact your provider separately. There's definitely not another notification built in to do that. So you have to do it yourself. Okay. So now we have seen our personal details. We checked our payslips. Our confidence is growing. Let's book some annual leave. So I'm back on my home screen. This time it's not personal information, it's time. So time tile is where you are scheduling all of your absences. If I click on it, it will take me to this screen, which just shows me kind of a weekly view of my absences, and you can just see that Ernie has just finished, just completed his paternity leave. So that is already giving you an idea around what kind of different absence types you could be selecting. I don't find this view particularly useful, but in the top left corner, you can change it to a monthly view, which I find a little bit more useful. So you can scroll through the different months and you can see this kind of representation of your different absences on effectively a calendar. What you can do in the top right corner is schedule an absence, which will ask you to select the absence type, dates, and so on, which we will get to. But there's another way in I want to show you, and for a particular reason. So on the right hand side, we have this Actions tab. And if I click on it, it kind of slides out. And I have two links, Manage Time Cards and Maintain Absence Records. It's the absence records that I am interested in. And this is the reason why I like to navigate into this place, because previously we were looking at the calendar view of our absences, which shows us at most month by month. Here we have a list of all of our different absences. Now the nice thing about this is at the top you have these different options to filter the list. So you can see the dates, so you can just have a look at all your future absences, or maybe you can limit by absence type and you just want to check your annual leave. That maybe have a status of, let's say, they are scheduled, so they have already been approved and they are in the future, so I just want to see, oh, have I scheduled this? Because this could potentially be quite a busy screen. So you have these options at the top to filter effectively. If you want to add a new one, you click on the plus icon. It's always a plus icon to create new anything on the system. So I'm going to click on that, and it gives me that absent type selection drop down. Now, I'm going to pause here. This is a list that is obviously alphabetically organized, which is why Action Short of Strike is at the top. But these are effectively all of those different absence types that you have access to. So let's have a look at what's there. Annual leave, career break, compassionate leave, jury duty, medical appointments in days and hours, paternity leave we already saw, sick leave, and so on. So it's quite a big list. But believe it or not, none of this is new. This is all covered by our existing HR policies. We just never had a system that we could just quickly access and see what's available. So this is what we'll be doing. So obviously for today, I'll focus on one type. Once you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all because they all work in a very similar way. Annual leave days, that is the one that we want. So what I want, once I pick my absence type, additional fields spawn. So based on the type, there might be some quirks, but all of them have a start date and an end date. If, like for today, what I want to do is just select a single day. So if you think like I do, you would select the start date and the end date as the same date, and you would think, oh yeah, this is one day for the system. The system wouldn't like it. I would say that the end date needs to come after the start date. You need to tick a single day box. There's a box. If you tick it, the end date will be removed, and all you need to do is just select the start date. So let's pick one. Well, let's say I'm going to pick maybe Friday. Once I pick my date, the start date duration will default into full day, and my total duration will be 1 day. But I have an option here on this type of contract. I have an option to select half a day, which is the smallest chunk that I can select. Unless you are an irregular member of staff and you are contracted in hours, this will read not annual leave days. This will read annual leave hours, and you would be actually picking specific hours. But majority of staff will have it in this way. In the comments, you can say, maybe, as discussed. As discussed with who? Well, now you know because I told you earlier. Once I click submit, which I am ready to do now, this will trigger a notification to your line manager. So even though you have this tool now that replaces the paper forms that we give to our line managers to sign, we are giving you the tool, but it really does not replace that conversation. So it will probably still be a good idea for you to go and check with your line manager. Let's say you want to go, I don't know, to South America for 3 weeks and you want to fly next week. You probably wouldn't start by putting a request through for 3 weeks, and then your line manager would get a bit of a shock opening up that notification, like, whoa, where is that coming from? You'd probably go to them and check, is this okay? And they'll be saying, yeah, go for 3 weeks, it's fine. At which point the conversation's already happened, so you can utilize the comments to say something or nothing. It's not mandatory field in this case. But for example, just to give you more ideas, if you selected half a day, then you might use the comments and say, I would like the afternoon off, because there's nothing actually, if you select half a day, for you to pick which time of day it is. So you can capture that in the comments. So I'm going to click submit because I'm ready. Absence entry was submitted. And it has appeared chronologically on here. No, it's at the top. So we have my date, we have the employer, we have the absence type, duration, and a status awaiting approval. So now we know notification went to Larry. Larry will receive it. Once Larry approves, this changes into scheduled. There are many other statuses here. Most of them are self-explanatory. If it's denied, it's denied. If you click delete, then it will be withdrawn. If it's already been approved, it's scheduled. If it's already been passed, then it will be completed. So you have these sort of statuses to play around with. Everything you see here is fairly flexible. So you can keep going in and amending and putting new absences retrospectively in the future, however way you like it and you need it. This will always trigger an approval to your line manager. So they will have to approve all the different changes here. But it is designed to be flexible because it needs to be. Because maybe you will go to that South America and then 3 weeks, but maybe 1 week in the middle you were ill. And then we know sickness takes precedence, in which case you have to go back into the system and amend those different lengths, put one in to reflect that. So the flexibility has to be there for you to keep amending it and making sure that all of this is right. Any questions? Okay, good stuff. Back to home screen. Let's submit some expenses. So it's still all about me. So I'm still same heading, still same tiles. Expenses is the last one on the list. If I click on that, it will take me to my expenses page. So you can see I've already got some submitted as Ernie. I have some tiles, 47 require action. You can see I've been really busy submitting lots of expenses. However, if you wanted to create a new one, in the top right corner, you click on actions and you have an option to create an expense report. So this is where you do it. Once you click on that, this will take you to a blank create expense reports, and you have to start with a purpose. So for today, I'm going to pick an eye test. Nice and simple. Report total at the moment is 0 because there's nothing on it. I have to add some items, and there is an expense item line. Underneath, there's a plus icon to create a new expense item. So I have to click on that. That will take me to create expense item page, and there are some fields to populate, starting with the date. So this will be the date, in this case, of the eye tests. So amend as appropriate. The system will remember the date that you've used previously for other types, not today's date, so just bear that in mind. Then you have to select the type, and it's another one of those lists, like with absences. None of this is new, but a lot of people learn that they can be reimbursed for different things, like on these sessions. You people have learned that they can claim back for eye tests. So if you work computers, you can claim £25 for just an eye test, or maybe up to 50 if you are also purchasing glasses. So it's all in the policies. But other things obviously are also available. So for today, I'm picking eye test. Once I picked my type, additional fields will spawn that are relevant for that particular type. So if I, let's say, picked mileage, then I would have a box in there somewhere to put my miles, and then the system would calculate automatically the amount. So it's quite nice like that. But eye test is a simple one. I need to know my amounts, so I'm claiming, like I said, the £25. Once I put my amount, my daily amount, and then reimbursable amount, it's calculated, so I know I'm claiming back the £25. In the description, I have to say something, so I might say, as discussed. You might be thinking, oh, who that with again? One change that we are making by introducing the expenses module is the approval for the expenses. Once I hit submit, will go to your line manager. So it is not going to be with higher, lower approval pools like for requisitions. It is going to be following the line manager structure. So it is a change. So again, you could go to your line manager and make them aware that you are submitting this, that you had the eye test, and then they can click approve. You would put merchant name, maybe Specsavers, receipt number, it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the top right corner, you have an option to add an attachment. I'm not going to attach anything today, but it's important that you do when you are submitting these claims, because this is where you are attaching scans and photos or photos of your receipts. So we are moving away from paper copies like we do now. You raise it on practice, and you have to print it off, strangely, and then attach all of those receipts, send them to payroll, and then for processing, and then they process. Going forward, it's all going to be done electronically. So just make sure you scan it, or maybe if you're out and about on conferences, you can just take photos of individual receipts, have those photos, and then send them to yourselves, bag them all in, attach them here, job done. Underneath that, we have this string of letters and numbers. This is our account code. Now, I'm going to click on this blue icon next to it to show you what that looks like. You may be aware of the existing account code structure, element 1, element 2, element 3. So that is being replaced with this. So all of the codes are changing. So now it's 7 segments, and I can see that it's exciting, but it's not too bad. So I know it's a big change, but it's not so bad. So I'll start with the first one, company, and the latter two, intercompany and spare. You do not have to worry about those. It's only really the 4 in the middle, that there is potentially something for you to do there. I say potentially because, as you saw in this example, I have a default in there. Everybody will have a default, and in the majority of cases, that default will be enough. So excluding company, intercompany, and spare, looking at analysis code, this is our equivalent of element 1 code. You will never change it, you will never update it, because it will be derived on this screen from the type of expense you pick. So if you pick eye test, this will default into miscellaneous expenditure. Leave it. We don't want to change it. This is how we want to capture it. Cost center will default from your department, wherever you are based in the institution. You might want to or need to update this and change it. For example, arts and law is actually quite a good example in this case, because for eye tests, particularly, they have a rule in Cal where it's the hub, it's the college hub that is paying for those expenses for eye tests. It's not the department, in which case you are able to go in and amend it. And the amendment is very simple, because you can click on this drop-down list. You will get access to some initial values, but you are able to also perform a search. So if you click on search, you can delete this value, the original value, and for example, search for a description. You put hub in there, and the value will pop up. So you do not have to know your value exactly. Does that mean that you can select any cost center that you can think of? The answer is no. There are some security rules in place. So if you are in CAL, you are able to select other cost centers in CAL, but you cannot select MDS, you cannot select EPS, unless we give you those security rules. So think of this as a sort of a semi-closed, semi-open structure. So it's kind of fairly open. You still have access to other cost centers. It's just not any other cost center that is available at the university. So there are some checks and balances in place. Then we have the activity and source of funds, which is now your kind of element 3 code, how we know it now, the project code, broken into these two parts. Activity is the purpose, why. Default is going to be admin services support, so it's kind of a generic default, which might be okay in this case. And then source of funds, again, there's going to be a default general fund, so this is your general expenditure budget sources of funds. If you need to amend any of these, because maybe you have a source of funds from an external funder, then you are able to do it in exactly the same way. Select the drop down and search. Hope that makes sense. Any questions?
How would we know where we need to claim something from? We don't. Like, I didn't make a claim in ITEST, so I would have known to go to the college hub to get them to pay for it.
So the example I use is CAL specific. I don't know how that works in MDS. You might need to speak to your local operations teams around the rules. They should know exactly how that works. So I imagine and I expect, because now everything is a lot more visible, there are neat drop downs which you just go in and select and like, oh, I can claim this. That you might need to do some checking and some investigation to make sure that you are definitely doing the right thing and you are definitely charging exactly what is expected. So there's always going to be somebody local to you to go to and ask that question. I cannot answer.
Information of who that is going to be available somewhere where you can see that email address or.
For MDS, I imagine there is some kind of college operations team that could be a good start.
Your technical manager.
Or your technical manager. Okay, technical manager. I don't know exactly how it works for MDS. It's different in different places, but I imagine there is going to be someone. By the way, if, and we will see that later, you also want to charge a project, let's thinking research project, underneath the account, when you are a person attached to a project, you are able to select that project from underneath. We will see that later when I raise a requisition, exactly what that looks like, but on the expenses, in this case, it's not shown. But if you were on the project, it would be shown, and you can select the project, in which case then the account gets updated to the right amounts. You just select your right projects. Once I'm done, and I'm actually happy with this, I click close. So now I have an expense report with an actual expense item. So we have my ITEST. I have a total, £25. It was previously 0. You can see, the system is letting me know that there's an image receipt required, so something's missing. I have an option to attach it from here as well, but I'm not going to. I want to click submit, and it's grayed out. The option is grayed out. I cannot do it because there's something missing and the receipt isn't it. I have to tick a disclaimer. I have read and accept the corporate travel and expense policies, which conveniently for everyone is a hyperlink which you can click on. It's actually working hyperlink, and it will take you to that expense policy, so you can see exactly how much money you can claim for different things from the screen. So it's quite nice. Once I tick that box, I can submit. So I click submit. The system is giving me a warning. More required image receipts attached. I click yes. I can still submit that expense claim because you might have a reason why you cannot submit a receipt. Maybe it's missing, maybe there's been an issue. The system will not prevent you from doing that. So what happens next, once you've submitted it, this will go to your line manager for approval. We're asking them to approve this in principle, so they will know, oh yes, you had an eye test, because we expect the line managers to know what their direct reports are doing. And once they've done that, that goes for a second stage approval with finance office, expense auditors. They will look at every single one. They will check all the receipts. They will check all the amounts, if everything is okay, and then they will click approve on their side. And then within a week, it will enter a weekly payroll run you will be reimbursed for that reimbursable amount. And job done. Any questions? Okay, requisitioning.
So I have one question. If you're going to do something incorrectly and submit it,
Mm-hmm.
would you just get a rejection saying it was incorrect, or would something specifically tell you what you might have done incorrectly? that you did incorrect?
What sort of incorrect things?
Like say the drop down when you might have chosen the wrong cost center or something like that, and you found that
Hmm.
cost to be rejected, but then would you get someone to tell you that?
How the system would know that it's incorrect?
Someone must know, so. I mean, someone's gonna okay this, so if it's not correct and they decide to not okay it, but you don't know that you did it wrong.
So the approvals, it goes to your line manager, so it could rely on the line manager spotting that there's something that isn't quite right. But I appreciate that this might be a bit hit and miss, depending. Then the expense auditors, they will just look at the amounts. They will not know, oh, have you selected the right cost center? How would they? So potentially, you could submit something and it will go through and you will be reimbursed. That will be not quite right. So then we'll rely on the budget holders detecting that something isn't quite right. They will run their own reports. Oh, somebody's charged not the right thing. They can reverse the charges and so on. So it's more about detection than prevention. That's the guiding principle of NUCO. So it will have its own challenges, but at the same time, it's placing the trust in you as staff or in us that we will do the right thing. Just because I can charge a different cost center does not mean that I should, that I would, or that I will, because you can always reverse and fix those changes, and then somebody will probably have a conversation. Why?
I'm not saying someone would do it on purpose, I just meant if you chose the wrong thing, not realizing that it was the wrong thing, and then.
It will go through. It will not tell you don't have to, because you can't select it, so you can't select it. So then it will have to be fixed afterwards. Mm-hmm.
Just a quick, the current expenses system that's done through Arctis, when does that run out and this one come in?
So there is a period called cutover, which you may have heard of, which means that we are switching off our current systems, and they all have their different dates. I can't remember exactly what it is for Practice, but I think it's like, I think 10th of May is the date that popped into my mind around that time, after which you cannot do anything. So you have a period of time where we are effectively unable to recruit staff, unable to process all the things and so on. We've gone through this once before the previous go-live date, so we're going through this again. So it's following the similar rules, and then once we're out of it, so 3rd of June we are switching this on, and then we can start using the new system. So there's always going to be that period called cutover. It's standard for these projects. We have to do it in this way because we cannot keep generating data to migrate into the new system. We have to stop at some point, migrate the data over, and then switch the new system on and keep using it. So we kind of try to minimize those windows, but there are going to be a few weeks long, and that is normal. So it's a pain, but we've all gone through it, and I don't think it generates quite as many or as much emotions as it did the first time anymore. Okay, requisitioning. So this time, it's not about me. Actually, it's on procurement. So if I click on procurement, I have two options here, purchase requisitions and my receipts. I'm not going to click on my receipts, but it is quite important to cover receipting. It's one of the most important things that we need to do. It's actually very simple. You go in, you find your order, receipt to the quantity, submit, job done. You may notice, depending on what your role is in the institution, that there is something missing, and that is invoicing. So we are going away, and it's already started happening. We are going to have a centralized function for invoicing. The reason for that is a lot of the invoicing is going to be done automatically. So what will happen is invoices will come into the system from the suppliers. The system will be passing that document. It will try and recognize the purchase order that is on the invoice and try to match it automatically. So a lot of the work that everybody's been doing manually. I'm an ops manager, I've been invoicing for years. And I had to do it all manually. It will be just done automatically. So what the system will be looking for when that happens is match that to that order if it's receipted. If the order isn't receipted, then we cannot obviously invoice automatically, and the supplier is not going to get paid. And we know we have this 30-day standard length, so we need to make sure that all of our orders are receipted. I don't know how it works in MDS, but I think you have stores, so you might have a lot of your deliveries there, or you might have them delivered somewhere. Somebody else could be accepting potentially. They will be able to go into the receipts and find your order, even if it isn't theirs. So it's quite simple and easy to do. They can go in and receive it for you if it's somebody else. So it is just important to point out, because now the dynamic is going to be not invoicing, it's going to be receipting. That is going to be the key part of our orders. But what I'll do is I'll show you the purchase requisitions. So I'm going to click on that, how to actually raise them. In order for you to raise, well, starting from the screens, so we have a list of our recent requisitions on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side we have recent purchases. So requisitions are whole requisitions, purchases are individual items, which you can then access and click on them and maybe reorder again. If you want to click and raise a catalog order, you would click on Shop by Category in the top left corner. And here you have a link called Categories, but in a live environment it will be called Science Warehouse. And if I clicked on it, it would take me out to Science Warehouse, and it looks and works exactly the same as it does on Practice. And then you find your items, and then you check out, and it will put it back into Nucor to edit my requisition screen, which we will see later. So I will not show it to you because it works very similar. Instead, I'll show you the non-catalog. If I click on More Task, I have an option to request a non-catalog item. So think of this as an equivalent or a replacement of raising a standard purchase order on Practice. Oh. Okay, I'll try and log in as someone else. Bear with me. Go back. Request non-catalog. There seems to be an issue with the training environment. If it's still not working, then I'll do something else. Bear with me. I'll try a different environment. And here we are. Okay. So what we have here is, on the left-hand side, we have to define our item line. So at the moment, the way it works on Practice is you start by selecting a supplier. Then the supplier has some items that are enabled for them, which you pick off a list. And then you maybe add some item descriptions. The way it's going to work in the new system is you put the description of the item from scratch every single time. So there's a little bit more work on this side of things. So I can say maybe it's software. The only hurdle here you're going to have is picking the category name. And the name is actually a number. And the number is, effectively, it's 40,000. It's an international standard, 40,000 different codes. They're called unspec codes, which ultimately map to the analysis code, which is the equivalent of the element 1 code. It's all a little bit complicated, but the bottom line is you search by description, and because there are 40,000 codes, you will always, and trust me, always be able to find what you're looking for. It's the standard software category in this case. Once I've done that, I've got my category name, which is a number, populated in. Then all I have to do is pick quantity, unit of measure. Maybe I'll just start typing each. The system will give me a hint. And then the price, I will know my price, what it is, let's say £150, because it's a particular piece of software I want to order. Then on the right-hand side, you have an option to select a supplier, which I will do at the end. But we also have, and this is where it's different, which is why we're not saying we're raising a purchase order, it's a non-catalog requisition. I have an option to tick a new supplier box. What this will do is, believe it or not, at this point, I could submit this for approval, and this could go through, even though I haven't got a supplier on. I tick the new supplier box, and what this will do is this will trigger a standard approval, which I'll talk about at the end. But what it will also do is it will trigger a notification to procurement team, and they will receive it, and they'll see, oh, somebody wants a piece of software, but they don't know who to order it from, because we are not all procurement experts. In fact, we're definitely not procurement experts. We don't know all the thousands of suppliers that we have on our books, but procurement do. So they're able to almost like complete this order for you, and they can select a supplier that is the most, maybe one that we already have on our books. There's no need to set up a new one. They could complete this order with that particular supplier, issue them with a PO, and then you would receive the goods and services and so on. But what, yes?
For that case, but you need to know the price. You need to put the price. So do you put a vague price? A random price?
You can get some quotes, so it's one option, and I appreciate it's not the best one, because what is most likely going to happen is you know exactly what you want and you know exactly who you want it from. You will just not have that supplier on the system. So even though you could kind of have a guess and do it in this way, or maybe a Google search, oh, this is the roughly how much this particular thing costs, but I don't know how much it's going to be. Just put something in there. A procurement team will be able to amend it to the right price. Most likely, you're actually going to have a particular supplier in mind, and you can put their details in there to let them know, oh, this is the supplier you want to use. At the bottom, you have attachments. Use that to send them files, let's say maybe single source approval forms. There's no need to wait. You can just fill them in straight away. If you know you're going to be asked for single source, then do it and attach it, and it will just put you ahead in that conversation. If you have 3 quotes, put those 3 quotes and then put your supplier that you chose, so that then, again, it speeds things up, because a procurement team will be able to see, oh yeah, okay, you are picking this supplier for a particular reason. Anything else to back your case that you can think of, you can put in here. What else? If you want conferences, for example, what you can do with attachments, there are different types. You can send a text, so you can just attach a text letting procurement know of some kind of instruction that you want to give them, but you also have an option to select an URL. So you can actually share, oh, okay, purchasing cards have been withdrawn, so we know we can no longer use them, but you really need conferences booked through this particular URL. You can actually send it to them straight away. Again, that puts you ahead. You already are giving them the details for those purchases.
So on that, say I want to go to a conference, instead of me paying for it and claiming back for expenses, I can do it this way?
Yes. You could. Which is probably how you are supposed to be doing it. But it is just now you have a system that actually facilitates that. So effectively what I'm coming on to is there is absolutely no excuse for us not to raise something on the system. Previously, it's like you need to have a supplier first before you even raise the PO, at which point you probably already have received your goods and services, you're probably already sitting on an invoice, and it's probably already overdue. Sounds familiar? It definitely sounds familiar to me. But now going forward, because of how flexible this is, you start everything with a requisition. And if you think about it, it helps also you as a user, because then that triggers some kind of SLA, because now it goes to procurement. They will have to respond. It's no longer, oh, you asking them for a favor to put a supplier on the system, which they might have got around to doing or not. So it's a kind of a give and take. I think this will be super useful. But like I said, start everything with a requisition, no matter what the end point is going to be. Whether they're going to use a purchasing card, whether they're going to create a supplier, whether they're going to ask you to use an existing supplier, it doesn't matter. You start with this. So there's no excuse. You can submit a requisition even without the supplier details. Just, I want this. I don't know where to get it from.
I've got a question. Some of the stuff we all at the moment, so like if we use a domain name for our project,
Okay?
we have to buy it through the account that we hold, but we've always got no need to purchase and they pay the purchase. But how is that going to work with the new system?
Where did you go, sorry?
We're going to purchase office in MDS and
Okay.
log in and then they...
Yeah. So it will work very similar. So what I would do is you would probably also could give them a link. So I would still submit this and even share the URL, but you would probably need to attach a note and say, obviously you will need to come into the office, wherever that's going to be, and that's probably going to be somewhere central now, and log in so that they can process this payment. So I don't think that side is going to change because obviously it requires your details, which you probably wouldn't want to share with them. Unless it's okay, but probably not. Yes?
So at the moment, with the new suppliers, finance will email you with some forms for you to then send to the supplier with all their bank details and stuff. So
They will pick that up. It will be process done by them. Because the reason it's now increased in complexity, so we will not be putting that on end users. And that's because the supply setup on the system is very complex. There's a lot of different things that we need to ensure that we have 100%, like email addresses for different things, and because then the POs are going to be sent automatically, then we're going to be receiving invoices from a particular email. It's all to do with the setup. So you will not be doing that.
is there an expected turnaround time for this?
I'd love to give you an answer. I'd love to have one. I think nobody is going to commit to anything at the moment. I think that we need to go live and see what the volume is and see how quickly they because it's a new system to everyone, including finance. So I don't think they could commit. Going forward, hopefully a few months down the line, they will have a very good idea. Okay, it will take this amount of time. We could put an SLA around it. I'd love to give you an answer. I'd love to have an answer myself, just selfishly. But I can't give you one now.
So once you create your request, can you amend it? So in terms of, for example, if they ask you for, you need 3 or 4 quotations because they request.
You are able.
So are you going to be able to add the documents that they ask you or something else, or they are going to deny it and then you have to do a new one?
I think the answer is yes. You will be able to go back in to this requisition, access it, and in the top right corner there's an option to edit, and then you will be able to add new.
Just in case you need an SSA or,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yes. I can check that later. I remember seeing it. It's been a while since I've gone there, but I think there is an option to edit anything on here. So just remove this. Untick the new supplier and actually pick one. Now the result of that is going to be slightly strange, but don't get discouraged. So I'm looking for an existing supplier, version 1. I'm going to click OK. This will do something weird with the amounts, but do not worry. I add to cart. Once it's added, it clears all the fields. So I can then continue ordering other things. And I can mix different suppliers, no suppliers. I can just in one sitting submit all of those different orders and add them all to cart. Once I'm ready, I click on my cart, click review, which will take me to that edit my requisition screen, which is also the screen you would see if you were doing the catalog order. But what you would see here is the description, the category name. I know the price has changed, but again, do not worry about it. Your amounts, then you would see the delivery details. So everybody will have a delivery detail. You are able to pick a different deliver to location from any location that is available on campus or satellite. So this isn't your home address. This is a carefully curated list, I want to say. Then when we scroll down, we have the billing. So you can see the charge account. This is already familiar. This is exactly looking like it does on the expenses side. And you have the same option, select a different cost center, for example, but you also have here an ability to charge a project So once you have a research project that you want to charge, this is where you do it. You find your project, then populate all the other, what is called the POET code, and then the charge account gets overwritten by your choices on the project side of things, and then the project gets charged, not the charge account. By the way, you have an option to split this. So if you have an agreement with a cost center that's 50-50 or something, you can split this amount, put the two different charge accounts, and you have a percentage here to amend to, let's say, 50-50, whatever it needs to say. So that's quite nice. Then we have the tax. You can override your tax classification code. If you know that you are exempt or zero rated and so on, you can do that here, similar to practice. The one thing to point out for this particular audience, we have an intended use, for example, medical research. We know that this is the different VAT treatment gets applied to it, so instead of asking you to pick the right one, which people get wrong, you just select intended use, medical research, everything else will apply automatically, all those different rules to it. You do not have to think about it, so something to, thank you, something to point out. Then we have some notes to supplier that we want to attach to this purchase order once it gets issued, if there's something that we need to tell them, maybe some attachments and so on. I'm happy to scroll back up and click submit. Once I've submitted, requisition number is going to be generated. I can view a PDF, I can save it, I can share it, and so on. I can also just keep it here. I've been raising a number of software ones, but it is the top one, which I'm able to, if I click on that, just to check, in the actions, I have an option to withdraw and edit. So this is for the lady who asked the question. You have the option to edit it. So now this is pending approval. So what is happening here is if you raise the catalog order, so Science Warehouse, under £500, this would be automatically approved. Nobody would have to click approve. So I'll let that sink in. What could possibly go wrong, I know. The thing is, it's catalog, so we actually do want to encourage people to, believe it or not, spend more money at the university, because we are not actually very good at spending money. We got underspent quite considerably, so we are making it easy to spend. £500, again, believe it or not, is considered low value, so this is the threshold that we've set. We've obviously checked with other institutions, other universities who have a similar rule in place. They might have different amounts, but they have it in place. It works. It just works. We know it. So this will be helpful. For the exception is hazardous materials and equipment. This will still go through an approval with the category managers, regardless of the amounts. And all non-catalog orders, an example which I've just shown, regardless of the amount, will always go for approvals. So we have a lower and a higher pool. The way it works is it's almost like, because they will be getting quite a lot of these approval notifications, because we are taking out those catalogs under £500, they'll be getting a lot less notifications. So it's a bit of a, it's a trade-off, I guess. So in your individual areas, yes?
Per item, £500 or per requisition?
Per requisition. So you could raise, yes, you could raise two or 499, yes, you could. You can do it in this way.
Can you put products of different tax codes on the same order? So if you have some stationery and some reagent, can you do it on the same order?
Yes, you can.
When I raise a purchase order, does my user profile link to specific grant codes to be charged, or I can pick anyone's grant code?
You can pick anybody's project.
Yeah.
It does not mean that you should, but you can.
I'm going to check it one by one, going back possibly weeks and months, whether everyone ordered on the right one.
I would suggest that check happens kind of more frequently, particularly at the beginning.
So, if I can put an order in for under £500 on anybody's project code,
Yeah.
and it's just automatically approved,
Yep.
who checks that I've ordered under the right grant code?
Whoever is looking after the budget, they'll have to check that, and then have a conversation conversation, an honest conversation with.
As a budget holder, so when we get the budget reports,
Mhm.
will we just see what items have been ordered on our budgets, or will we see the username of the person that ordered?
You will see the requester name once the purchase order is approved, because it will become a commitment, and you'll be able to see on that commitment links exactly who requested. You will see the name of the person.
But once it's ordered, it's not commitment anymore, you don't see that name anymore.
So for orders under £500 that do not have to be approved, we won't see that username, is that what you're saying?
You will see the username because even though it's an automated approval, it is still an approval. So once it's approved, it will become a commitment. So you'll be able to see it.
What I'm saying, once
Once
it's not a commitment, once you actually, when it once became a real item being delivered,
Once
and
it's
no
paid
more
for,
commitment
can
to
you
be
tell
paid,
who's brought it?
Because the reason I ask, right, is because we're all ordering similar things. So I can't just look at my requisitions and think, right, well actually that makes sense because we should have ordered those things, because actually it might be the lab next door. And I'm not suggesting that anybody would use our grant codes, but mistakes are made, which you said. So as an end user and a budget holder here, it's going to be very difficult for us to track whether those orders are appropriate for our grant codes. Should have been made on our grant codes, unless we can see who's made that order.
So, like I said, you will be able to on the reports. Once it's commitment. So at its requisition stage, not yet. Once it's a commitment, yes.
And after it's ordered?
After it's ordered.
After it's been paid for.
then it's ordered.
So when it's paid, it will land on the cost side of things. So it will become a cost.
You see the order then.
I don't think so, but you are able to track that transaction from the details that you are able to see on the report. So you are able to then access that transaction and see the
Back
details.
second and see who raised the requisition first.
Yeah. So appreciate it's a culture change. So we all have now a lot more responsibility on our shoulders. So we need to step up and make good use of it. So I know we overran, but thank you all for coming. Hope you found this session useful. I'm happy to stay and answer questions afterwards.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.